Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Christina Kent and I'm an oil painter based out of San Francisco. And today I'm going to be painting a simple eye study using a limited color palette. Let's check it out. So for this eye study, I wanted to do something quick and keep it pretty small, so I'm working on Arches oil paper. I think it's about 3 inches by 4 inches, and I wanted to explore with this study. So I'm trying out a new color palette here. For me, I'm using titanium white, which I usually use, and then I'm going with some really saturated colors. So usually when I do portraits, I paint with a more neutral palette, like a Zorn palette or some earth tones, but for this one, I'm using bismuth yellow, quinacridone magenta, and cobalt teal. I was inspired to explore this color palette some more because I did a workshop with Nicolas Uribe and he had used these similar colors in the workshop, and I found the palette to be really exciting and really interesting, and I wanted to see I guess just what the potential was for these colors. And I think it's a really great exercise to use them for painting a portrait because skin tones are all very, very neutral. They're usually in the realms of browns and grays. So I thought it was a fun challenge to take these super saturated colors and use them in painting an eye study and painting a subject that had a lot of neutrals. And you can see at this point in the painting, I've almost blocked in most of the colors, so the paper is pretty much covered, and I'm kind of balancing between some sort of warmer, pinker, slightly more orangey areas, and then some cooler, grayer areas. And one thing I really liked about this palette is that it brings out a lot of really interesting and very, very exciting, if you can call them that, exciting grays that I think have a lot of depth to them and actually are more complicated than they first appear. And as I'm working with this palette, I'm trying to think about where are the warmer parts of the face or the parts of the subject and where are the cooler parts to try to figure out where I can put these more bluer, purpley gray notes and where to put the more orangey, pinkish notes of color. And when I see these shifts in color temperature in my reference, I really want to push them in the painting. I want to see exactly where this palette can go and really emphasize these color changes because my reference had pretty flat lighting, so there aren't very super strong shadows and contrast that'll draw the eye. And so what I think is really interesting in this study is to really focus on those temperature shifts. And as always, I'm starting to build in more of the detail once I've blocked in the main colors and I have my main zones of warm and cool and of light and dark. And I'm just going in and kind of refining these shapes now that I've established most of the colors that are going to be in the painting. I'm also building up some of the highlights, so I like to start a lot of my paintings a little bit darker than they're going to be in the end, and then layer some of the highlights on top and kind of build the highlights up on top of the darker layers. I find this works really well for alla prima painting because it's a lot easier to layer a lighter color on top of a darker color than vice versa. And as the painting developed, it really shifted more into the purpley blue zone than into the pink orange zone. I found it harder to get some oranges from this palette and a lot easier to move into these cool grays, which I think it's interesting. It's different from how I usually paint, but it's something that I do find really beautiful. And it kind of reminded me of some of the paintings by Henrik Uldalen, who does a lot of figurative painting. Not to say that this is anywhere near as good as what he can do. He is like a magician with the paintbrush. But I did find that the sort of overall feeling and color harmony that I was getting with this palette was more reminiscent of some of his paintings with the really cool gray-blue flesh tones. The lighting at this point in the filming is a little bit off, but you'll see in the final version that it's a lot grayer and more neutral than it appears here. Here it appears a little bit pinker than it actually is. For the last steps, I just refined some of the highlights and then I'm pretty much done. And it was overall a really good experience. I really enjoyed trying out this new palette, exploring it, seeing where it would go. Like I said, it's different from the colors that I usually go with for portrait painting. And I don't know if I'll do a full portrait with this anytime soon, but it's great to know that, that this palette is out there and to see how my painting how my painting kind of adapts to the palette. If you're someone who usually likes to paint with the same palette like me, trying out a completely new palette can be a nice challenge and can provide a little boost to your painting practice. So that's basically all. Here's the final version. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. And let me know if you've tried out a similar palette yourself and how that process went. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video, and a huge thank you to my supporters on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for supporting this channel. You guys are amazing, and I really appreciate it. If you like my art, if you like my videos, and you want to help me make more, check out my Patreon at the link below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.